Hello, everyone. Welcome to another day on Earth, and welcome to the Silicon Slope Show. I don't know. That's how I open the show.
Sometimes.
Like, welcome to another day. Like, I don't know.
On
You're
Earth.
alive. If you're listening to this, you're alive, and you got to be grateful for that. We have a lot to talk about and a lot to get to, but we have a very special guest, someone I've known for a very long time, someone who I think is a legend as a community builder, as someone who has supported entrepreneurs and been in this game for a very, very long time. The great Derek Andersen is here.
Thank you for having me. Good to be in the presence of legends.
You're an actual legend. I don't know where to start with you exactly, but you've got Bevy, which is this incredible platform, and we've used, and I maybe even still do use Bevy, and it's an incredible platform. Everyone should check it out. But you also are the founder of Startup Grind. You live out there in Silicon Valley. You're one of those heathens out there.
Holding it down.
How's Startup Grind going? Have you been doing that? How many years now?
So Startup Grind is a community for startups and entrepreneurs. It's sort of like Silicon Slopes for everywhere else.
Yeah. It's like way better though.
No, not at all. Not at all. If every startup ecosystem in the world could have a Silicon Slopes, there would be absolutely no need for Startup Grind, and but they just don't. There's lots of probably reasons for that, and why you all have been so successful and so critical to be here. But yeah, we started in 2010. We have chapters in 120 countries. We've hosted 20,000 events for startups. It's sort of like TED for startups.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And
fireside chats, monthly fireside chat events. Got a whole platform which is run on Bevy now, right?
It is. Yeah. Bevy's we originally built Bevy. It's a sort of AI first now, a community platform for enterprises, and we built it for Startup Grind, and it helped us grow sort of exponentially without hiring more people, and then start showing it to people as you do, and productized it, spun it out in 2017, and we run communities for like Salesforce or Google's community, Snowflake, Figma, people like that.
Well, if anybody is, and everybody needs a community now. Like I don't. You kind of have to. If you're in business, you've got to like, who is my community? Who should I be targeting? How do I kind of get them all together? You have to do it. It's kind of the way to build a company now. If you were going to build a company, you've also got to build a community. No one knows it better than you, and having all that experience and wisdom and how to and what to do and what not to do inside of a platform is incredible. So people should really check out bevy.com. It's BEVY.com. Hey, what's going on in Silicon Valley? Tell us the difference between Silicon Valley and Silicon Slopes.
I know we're not the best state in the country for doing a startup.
Yeah.
We didn't even make the top. California didn't even make the top 10 or 15.
But is San Francisco the best place to build a startup? Like, I know like California's not, but California's an enormous state. Like, is San Francisco still the best place?
Can this be like my California therapy session? Yeah. Is this, yeah. I don't know, maybe
we'll start
your audience doesn't need to hear about all the shrapnel that I have from 20 years in California. I grew up in Florida. I went to high school. I lived in Europe through sort of middle school, elementary school. Went to high school here, and then went to college in Provo, go Cougs, and then moved there to do internships. So I've been basically in Palo Alto since 2005, and it came out of like I wasn't there for the .com bubble. But I got there a few years after. There was sort of like, it was quiet, it was building. Then, I got there the same year Facebook got to Palo Alto. And then you had like the Social Network movie. It sort of felt like at some point in 2012, I was like, we've peaked startups. Mm-hmm. Like they can't get any bigger. And then it just got way bigger. And what happened in the South Bay, which is like, Palo Alto, Mountain View area, like some of the biggest private startups now, like Stripe and Pinterest, and some of those, they all started in Palo Alto. But first of all, Palantir like just took over downtown Palo Alto. They took every little space. They're paying way over market. So they really pushed startups out of the sort of the hot spots in Palo Alto. And then second, like, it's just a sleepy college town.
Yeah.
And like, if you're single and you're young and like you don't want to, there's nothing to do, which is great if you're.
It's great for you.
It's great for me and my family.
Yeah. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Actually.
But sounds
like Provo.
So basically everybody just moved north. And then I started, like, before the pandemic, like, it's like an hour and a half commute to get up there from Palo Alto. The traffic was so crazy. And I sometimes do it like twice in a day. Like, I'd have to come back down. I'd have to go back up. Then the whole place cleared out for COVID. And I'm not really sure if it's actually coming back or not. If you're like, seeing like YC just finished their cycle, and we've heard so many, if you read the tweets, you think like San Francisco's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And objectively, like, I cannot confirm that. And it's not a place I want to spend time. So like, and I think there's a lot of people like that for all the reasons why it's a really disappointing place to be in many ways. And, but there is energy. The AI stuff is like brought a ton of energy back. There are people that have come back, but I wouldn't say it's like, it's not 2018, 2019. I don't think it's anywhere near that, but there is an energy that left during COVID that is back.
Yeah, my sense is, and tell me if I'm wrong, and by the way, I know Utah's great. Let's put that aside. But my sense is, if you want to build an AI like a deep AI product, you've still probably got to build it in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. Is that accurate?
It's definitely going to be easier.
Yeah, I think
there's going to be more talent. There's of course, like, we know that the vast majority of funding goes to 3 states, and Utah's right next. But so yeah, I mean, if you're an early stage company and you're trying to get that momentum to get your startup off the operating table, and get some life into it. Yeah, I mean, there's no better place to be than the Bay Area. There is an energy. I mean, there is an energy there that doesn't exist anywhere else. But I would say, like, there's all these downsides to it too. I was at an event last night called the Reference Group, and somebody came up to me and was like, what should I move to San Francisco? And I said, well, like, do you really want to live? And like, are you cool with living in like a 2-bedroom, terrible apartment where your laundry is down the hall and like you're paying a ridiculous amount of money? Like, are you and your partner up for that? And he's like, that sounds tough. I was like, well, like, then I would suggest not coming. And so I think, those are the balances you have. Those are the trade-offs you have. You have this amazing quality of life here in Utah, and there's so much opportunity here. The energy here is incredible. Can you make it work with what you're trying to build here? And a lot of people absolutely can.
I think you definitely can start and build. And I mean, it's been proven here in the state of Utah and other places. Like, you can certainly do it outside of the Bay Area. No question. My only question is, like, and I don't know the answer to this, is like, is it still the very best place? Like, and you would know this better than I do with chapters everywhere. Is like Miami doing really well? What about New York? Is Austin doing really well?
I think they have really good marketing.
Yeah.
I think the people that are there that are trying, I think a lot of it is objectively, I mean, yeah, I think Miami's doing, I grew up in Florida, and like, I can't imagine Tampa being, or Florida being, a tech hub. It just is sort of like an oxymoron. But like, a lot of cool people move down there. There is a lot of good energy there. They have a Silicon Slopes kind of event and experience that's attended by tens of thousands of people, and everybody speaks at it. And it's a great place to live if you can afford it. I mean, it's not cheap there either.
Yeah, it's not cheap there for sure.
But yeah, I think all of those places. I mean, New York's like one of the coolest cities in the world, so lots of people want to live there. And I do think like being able to walk in a street and just bump into people, like the coffee shop thing, like, that's totally real. And there are places here where you can do that too. But when you're sort of mostly walking around,
yeah,
and Palo Alto's kind of like that too. When you're downtown, you're mostly just walking around. You just you just bump into people, and that serendipity creates opportunity.
Yeah, New York is the hub of the world,
Mm.
not just its tech and startup hub. It'll be the hub of the world. It's like the capital of the world, I think.
I love it. I've worked for Silicon Slopes for 9 years, and I've watched the community here evolve over that nearly decade. I lived in San Francisco for about a year and a half in 2013, and there was a lot of startups at TechCrunch and things like that. I remember the CEO of Yelp coming up and giving a business card and spending a lot of time on Sand Hill Road, like the August Capital porch party. And it's been interesting to watch the two kind of mirror and then not mirror each other and watch the life cycles. But I'm interested with your exposure to the non-fancy, the markets that are good at promoting themselves, like maybe Omaha or Lincoln, Nebraska or Minneapolis. I think I would find a lot of value and fun in those ecosystems and watching those evolve. Are there any that kind of stand out over your years of startup grind?
Well, I will say, and I'm not just pandering to this room of legends, but I will say uniquely Tel Aviv and Utah have some of the most unique startup communities and most successful, and you can take whatever you want from that, but there's obviously Israel is just an IP technology machine, and when you go there and you experience, it's so vibrant and people are so willing to help each other. The startup grind values, which kind of was the thing that helped really propel us, which is to give more than you take, help others first, and make friends. Those are really Silicon Valley values, and there are certain places that really latch on to those and adopt them in certain ways. Nobody's perfect, including the Bay Area, but the places that have that mindset more than others, I find are the ones that really thrive. And the thing about you guys at Silicon Slopes, it's always been amazing to me, is like you all really embody that, and I think really led the way. Like I've seen dozens and dozens of Silicon Slopes types of communities and organizations, and almost all of them fail. And it's really because the people running them don't have that ethos.
Yeah.
And you all, I think, have just been a really great example for everyone and the people that you've gotten involved on the board and who have helped, embody that as well. And that kind of sets the tone. Yeah, I mean, there's, Atlanta had MailChimp and something great stuff. You had Atlassian in Sydney. You had, wherever there's these like singular companies, and AOL in Virginia, started that 25, 30 years ago. Like wherever there's those temple companies, then things can start to flourish, but you also need those people kind of driving the right culture.
Yeah.
I think the smartest thing that Silicon Slopes ever did when we, recreated the organization and pulled it out of Domo in 2015 was make it a nonprofit. We would have sold this thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that nobody owns it is a big deal. That became a much bigger deal than I thought. One, I do think we probably sell it at some point, because it's look at the value of this thing, right?
Yeah.
And but now nobody owns it. The board rotates, and it becomes it kind of forces you to be about the community. Do you think there's anything with, the similarities between Israel and Utah are incredible. It's actually interesting that you named those two, given that there's a predominant religion in both places. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
Well, people are more connected in those two faith communities. They're more intertwined. There's more, just sort of stepping back and looking at why is, you said at the beginning, community is this, you feel like it's sort of in your fabric of who you are. So it's sort of more obvious to you guys. But the reality is we live in the loneliest time in human history. Mm-hmm. Being lonely is attributed to smoking. It's the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It brings on dementia. It brings on death. And people, is in spite of being more connected than ever, are more lonely than ever. And so I think, and not only that, then you've got like the millennials and, the people right below us who, I'm the first year of millennials. I'm barely a millennial, but we don't want to be sold to, and you see Cotopaxi or companies like that, and they have this mission, like, and it feels like I'm a part of this thing, right?
Yeah.
It's clothes and bags,
Yeah.
like cool bags. But like, no, like I'm part of this like movement, right? I mean, what Davis did with that, I've seen people wearing it at the airport to like last night, like you just see it everywhere. You're like, oh, cool, like do good. Yeah. Like I want to be part of this like company. It's apparel.
Yeah.
But no, like that's what I want to support. That's where I want my dollars to go. And so I think that the smartest companies and entrepreneurs have realized, like, I don't want to sell to people. Like I want to build community. I want to build value in my customers' lives. And I think there's this natural fabric of community here and in Tel Aviv and in other places that help sort of accelerate the good things that come when people start talking and helping each other. I don't know. You tell me. What do you like? What's the magic here?
I certainly think that we understand community here, just given the predominant religion, and we all kind of see each other every Sunday. And there is something about like the whole give before you take mentality. By the way, you must hand out Adam Grant's book all the time, Give and Take.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, a great example of that.
Same. Yeah, I love that book. Everyone should read that book. If you want to know how to start a community and what it means to be a good community member, read Adam Grant's Give and Take book. I think he published it in like 2013 too, so it's kind of old. I do think there is like, hey, there's something in the water here. There's something in the water in Tel Aviv. There's obviously something in the water in like in New York City who does this better than anyone. Just understanding like what community is and what it means to be part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Right. No one's bigger than New York. And my sense is no one is bigger than Utah.
Yeah.
Right? Although Ryan's giving it a good run for the money. Right. But no one's bigger than Utah and no one's bigger than Israel. But like in Silicon Valley, sometimes you think of those and you think of these names. You think of like, well, you think of Zuck or Elon or like, and they might be bigger than that place.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. And it is crazy that they all kind of ended up, everybody sort of ended up there.
Yeah.
Even NVIDIA, sort of a nascent tech company for decades is kind of plugging along. And now it's right there with all those companies. It's right there. It's right in Santa Clara.
The one thing I do think is unique, and I've always wondered, and you're the person to ask this question, the one thing that is unique about Utah that I've seen, and I don't know if this exists in Israel too, is that all of the top entrepreneurs and leaders and CEOs get together to talk about how to grow the ecosystem. And it's not about their companies or any of that type of stuff. Like literally they get in a room.
Yeah.
I know that because they do it through this organization. Like they get in a room and they talk about, hey, what's the future of Utah? What role should we play in it? What do we want to do? What type of Utah do we want to see? And it's the whole night is, and I think you've probably been to some of these, like the whole night is just, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And how do all of us get together? And like, I don't think Elon and Zuck and Dorsey and Bezos and, Benioff are doing that same thing.
Yeah. Well, Elon, since you mentioned him famously, was, used to stay at Larry Page's house, and then he got mad over him calling him a speciesist or whatever. And so, they haven't talked since, or, allegedly. They're all, these are the most competitive business athletes in the world.
Yeah.
And so I think some of them are maybe friends, and a lot of it is like, well, I want to be king. So like, I don't really want to be too close to you. So no, I think that what you describe, those people getting there, it is incredibly unique, and it happens almost nowhere else.
Yeah.
And if you could replicate Silicon Slopes and do it in other places, like that would be the thing you would have to do. And I'm just not even sure you could get any buy-in from almost any other place, even though they're like, wait, we want to be like Utah. We want to, we want to have the success you're having. We want to have the growth you're having. It's like, well, this is how you got to start. Everybody has got to check their ego at the door and come and say, how do we do this together? And that was kind of, as I understand, like how Silicon Slopes, the origins of it.
Oh yeah.
And, everyone kind of came together, the main people, and it's like, okay, well, if Ryan and Josh and Aaron and the others, like Todd, others, like if they're gonna act that way, like we all need to act that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting over the years. We've probably hosted 100 or so, consulate generals or chambers or groups from outside of Utah where they want to ask a ton of questions about Silicon Slopes or offer to pay us to go and build an ecosystem there in a community and nation we have no idea about. I'll talk about how old our cars are, and it's a nonprofit and got to be kind of dumb, and it's kind of unique in the timing of Utah, but there's been dozens, and I kid you not, interactions where the group that I'm there hosting will start arguing amongst themselves.
Wow.
On how to, we got to do this based on what you just said, and they'll start arguing and bickering. The longest one where I didn't get a word in edgewise was about 20 minutes.
Wow.
Of them arguing and bickering of how to build an ecosystem, and it's like, well, it's great meeting y'all. I doubt that'll work out.
Yeah. I wonder, like, you all's choice to do it as a nonprofit. I mean, one of the things with us, with Startup Grind, when we looked at it 2012, I mean, you're kind of making big decisions quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sort of like, if we're, we didn't make a nonprofit. Sometimes it feels like a nonprofit. We talk about it like it's a nonprofit, but I just sort of like wanted to keep options open. I didn't know what it was going to be.
You shouldn't be a nonprofit. I don't think Startup Grind should be a nonprofit. That doesn't. Yeah, the only advantage.
Like, how did you come to that decision where it was like, this
literally
is
for me
sure
was like, I don't want any of you to own it.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to own it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to own this thing. Right? If somebody owns this thing, then all of a sudden, there's different motivations, there's different incentives, like, events that pop up, organizations that pop up. The first question I ask is like, who owns it?
Yeah.
And if it's like a VC fund, or if it's like, you kind of immediately, pretty quickly, actually start to see why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And their kind of personal motivations. And all of a sudden, like, okay, well, that's not a pure community play, right? And so, like, but I don't know that something like this ever works anywhere else. Like, I've been to the Prime Minister of Wales randomly, like 5 years ago, said like, hey, come and show us how you did this.
Yeah.
And I go there and I'm like, well, you can't, I don't know. Like, I'm most of the time I just recommend Bevy. I'm like, use Bevy for the platform. How you actually do it, though,
so smart
is I don't really know, unless the leaders are willing to get together in a room and not talk. In fact, let me tell you a story. I went to, we took over Utah Technology Council 2019, 2020, something like that. And there are, it turns out, technology councils in every state. I had no idea. And they did a big, I believe it was in Madison, Wisconsin, they did a big like gathering of all the tech councils, right? And I'd taken it over about 3 months before, and I was like, all right, so I guess we go.
United Nations of Tech Councils.
I mean, I guess we go to this thing, right, and see like what's going on, and maybe we can be part of this thing, because I wasn't even sure what we were going to do with UTC. I'm still not sure what we're going to do with it. And we get there, and I get in the room, and the whole time, we're in there for like 2 hours, and it's like, here's how we do the thing, here's how we do it here, here's how we do it there. It's just people, nobody listening, everybody just like, when's it my turn to talk? And that first like kind of opening thing, I was like, well, I'm done with this. We're not part of this organization anymore. There's not like, this is pointless. Like, we're not like here to just like say how great we are. We've got to like, how do we grow? How do we get better?
Yeah. Are we going to do something? And clearly not.
Yeah, and when I'm there, I'm like, man, what would the power of like all of these organizations coming together? What would that mean?
Yeah,
but they're not. That'll never happen.
Yeah, I mean, we Rise of the Rest came here a few years ago. I was one of the groupies on the bus for a few years, and I went to, I don't know, maybe 20 different cities, maybe more. It's hard. It was hard to sort of keep track, but it was basically the same. It was this kind of conversation. You'd go for one day, and interestingly, like you could even see, like as you tell that story about people fighting, like you could see it, like you can see it so fast with people that it's just like You know, he would bring everyone together for Steve Case's amazing job bringing everyone together for one day. And actually, I'm gonna brag. This is the only thing I'll brag about. I'm gonna brag that I was like, we've got to go to Salt Lake City. We got to go to Utah. And they were like, well, like, I don't think they really need us. I'm like, no, like, this is exactly like, okay, they might be the leader. And I remember him at I think we were at the prison.
Yeah.
And he said, he's like, there's been more IPOs in Provo and Salt Lake City in the last 20 or 30 years than there has been in New York City. It's like, and then he started repeating this line all across the country. And it's just, it's just a credit to, and people should be so proud and excited about being here and the opportunity. And it just, as someone on the outside looking in, like, and seeing all the things that are happening and seeing, there's some investors here that I have recommended big firms in the Valley to hire because they're better than anybody that I know in the Valley.
Yeah.
And thankfully they haven't done that because they're here and they're doing a great work here. But like, these are the most world-class people, but they want to live here, want to raise their family here. And so like everyone here gets access to that.
When are you coming back?
Well, I'm here right now.
I have one more quick thing to say because I was able to watch the whole thing kind of from the beginning. And a lot of the credit, even though he doesn't deserve it, goes to Clint.
I definitely don't deserve it.
You do, because you're really good and instincts are really good with community building, which isn't, I don't think it's anything you can learn quickly. I think you have to have the instincts and the adaptability. That's my opinion. And I think
100%. I mean, the day-to-day of, and again, just the way you talk about it, like anyone listening can hear it, whether they know about all the startup ecosystems in the world or not. Like it just, you're like the perfect person to do this job. And so many other people would not have done it the way you do it. And just the way you include people, and like it's not about you. I mean, we just, as evidenced by that, it's that's why you're the right person to do it, and you've done an amazing job.
Well, in a lot of ways, it's like running this like perpetual political campaign. It's almost like we're up for election every year, right? And like, we really have to serve the community. If we don't serve the community, we don't get reelected. And the way we get reelected is like, hey, we're going to continue to support you. We're going to continue to show up to events. We're still going to go to these kind of like leadership summits that we do, right? Like that's how like how it's interesting. When we first started this thing, people would always ask me, how many visits did you get to your website? I'm like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like that's not even how I track.
It's not a metric.
It's not even a metric. It's like, I want to know, like, did people say yes that they would come to this thing?
Yeah.
And if they did, then we're doing well.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, then we're not.
Right.
Like the website doesn't even matter. I've never even really put too much. We're about to launch a new kind of like website and who we are and that type of stuff. But I think our website has sucked the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? Well, except for the Bevy part.
It's not
like the chapter.
It's not needed. And I mean, it's the things you're doing. You bring in Tim Cook here, or bring in Mark Zuckerberg here, or and as somebody that puts on conferences and, we've has tens of thousands of events over the years, like in huge respect and in awe of what you all have done with your summit and who you get. I've emailed you this over the years, like, you do the speaker announcements and I'll be like, what? Like, how did you get Tony Robbins? This is ridiculous. How did you get Mark Zuckerberg? Like, he literally lives on my street, like literally 5 houses down. I'm renting, and he owns the rest of the street. But like, and I can't get him. And here he is, coming to Utah and talking about what's going on here. It's incredible.
Him coming here is one of the highlights. Like that conversation was awesome. He talked about his faith. I feel like he talked about things he's never talked about before. He streamed it on his own personal Facebook page. Like that's wild. Cool. That was actually wild.
Yeah, that was a fun day. I remember where we were when we finally got word that he's coming, and it was a fun day.
Yeah,
fun day. And then the world changed for a while after that.
Almost immediately after that.
Was it really? Was it?
Then we got
2020.
COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did it in January 2020, and then in March, the
Wow.
whole world was different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild.
Thankfully, your event wasn't in March or April.
Yeah,
Oh,
I remember thinking the whole time, oh man, we are so lucky.
Yeah.
Snuck it in.
My event, my conference is usually in February. It's now in April, but it was like that year. It was February like 17th or 18th, and the second day, the person that runs it called me. He's like, "Hey, can you stop by Target on the way in and get? There's no hand sanitizer in the Target in where the event is, and I was 1 or 2 cities away, so I went and bought all the hand sanitizer, and took it. And I remember just sitting there and just feeling like this saved us, because if it had been literally the events happening a week later, like SaaStr and others, they all got canceled, and the bills were due.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just you all being in January, huge blessing. Us being right before the clouds, finally came in, was just incredibly lucky.
Well, then we had to move it because the next January we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so we had to move to the fall. And so we did 2 in the fall, and now we're back to January. The event should be in January because we want to bring people in for skiing, for
Right,
Sundance.
Sundance.
We were premiering films and all that type of stuff. But we had to go 2 years in the fall because, was it 2 or maybe even 3?
3, but we never missed a year.
Yeah, we never missed a year. Even the COVID year, we didn't miss
Yeah.
it, which is kind of crazy.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. But we had to, do it 9 months later.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Those
So,
dark days.
what are your thoughts? I just want a general idea of what you're thinking about AI, future of AI, how it's impacting your business, and how you see it impacting the businesses around you out there.
So, self-admitted novice kindergartner on AI coming into the beginning of last year. And I just sort of went back to school, and just I did a bunch of events. I used StartGrind as an excuse to meet a bunch of experts in AI and talk to them, and just sort of and then I went and I flew to 30 customers. I did 30 in-person meetings all over the world for Bevy customers, and talking to them and seeing how they're thinking about it. And by the end of last year, I started to sort of figure out, connect the dots on okay, first of all, I also, sort of thinking about, could Startup Grind have been created with just AI? Could a community exist with only AI? And I think the sort of objective answer to that is no. The Startup Grind would have never been created without the critical early team. But we were staying up in my garage working till 12, 1, 2 in the morning constantly. And we could have definitely been way more efficient and moved way faster. And, I've now used ChatGPT and other sort of AI marketing tools every single day. I'll start to write. I have to force myself to do it because I've had 2 decades at work, and I've had this way of working, and I have to unlearn that. Whereas think of it when your kids ask you what's the weather going to be today? You start to pull out your phone, and meanwhile, one of your other kids is asks Alexa, and then they get the answer. I mean, those there's so much, there's going to be so much more value created by the people that don't have all of the shrapnel from the non-AI days. But basically, what I discovered was that the way that community is built is super inefficient. You think about going to a search engine looking for an answer in a product that you're a customer of, then you go to their community to engage with it and see what it is. Then you have to read hundreds of comments. What I want. Just tell me what I want. We're all experiencing this where we're now searching ChatGPT before we go to search Google to get certain answers. It's just so much more efficient and so much easier. And so we just started to build a product that was really putting AI at the front of everything that we're doing. And then the second thing is, I think buying in SaaS has completely changed. And sort of what was happening in 2017, 2018, 2019 just got really sped up 2020 and 2021. And now it's after we went through the vendor apocalypse, where everybody's canceling, every vendor scrutinizing everything. Shout out to Vendor or Tropic, these companies that help you, see what you need and what you don't need. And I think now it's like I have to get value. So I just let me, first of all, I think generally prices are compressing with a lot of products. Maybe AI, is an add-on. It's something that, people just pay for separately. But also just you have to have a product-led growth motion. And at Bevy, we've never had that until now. We just relaunched 2 weeks ago, and now anyone can start a community for, basically $50 a month and get it going and see if it's going to work and see if your customers, resonate with it. And so I think I'm really excited about just, spending the last basically decade building tools, now getting those into people's hands who, could never afford a full enterprise, mega enterprise sort of situation. So, and I think any product that's getting started, you could kind of, even back in the day, people were like, hey, I can remember Ryan Sweeney or Ryan Smith, who were on my board, saying hey, maybe we should do this. And this, there's so many other successful use cases with that, but I think now it's just 100% required.
Yeah. Do you think it's subscription fatigue? And, you've got the Basecamp folks saying hey, we one time now, which I actually think is kind of fascinating. You used to buy software one time.
Yeah.
You didn't have to pay the recurring subscription. Do you think that kind of makes a comeback? And so the one time is a little bit a bigger number, but you only have to do it one time. I don't know.
I don't know if I fully, look, if you want to update the product, you still need to pay for updates. If you want you want support, they've kind of separated buying the software with support and other stuff. And a lot of their products are not support heavy. I use Basecamp for years. You just use it on your own. But, look, are we using Basecamp now? I don't know. Maybe some people do, but I think most moved over to Notion or Asana or other more modern products, and we'll pay more for those. Yeah. Monday. So I do think I don't think people want to sign 3 to 5 year deals anymore.
No.
So, and I don't know that I ever signed a 5-year contract with anyone or myself, but there definitely are the big enterprise companies have people locked in on these huge mega contracts and, take it a year at a time. And I think people are just more willing to negotiate.
Do you think, so I do think there's probably going to be some sort of monthly thing, right, in SaaS, but do you think the per seat thing stays?
So we've never done per seat because I think it does stay but we never did it because these companies we work with, they have thousands in some cases of volunteers. And you think of all the people that, are part of Silicon Slopes and they have access to your product. Once you get per seat, when you're talking with volunteers, it gets really expensive really fast. So we always just we found other metrics to grow on. And that was part of why we built our own product, because I looked at products and they were all per seat. So I don't, but I think we had a contract with a really well-known vendor, and it was we had locked in, hundreds of seats with all this growth that we were definitely going to have. And it was a 3-year deal. And I think all that, it's just gone. So yeah, maybe you're not locking in the number of seats that you're, for many years in advance. And people just wouldn't negotiate before. And everyone's negotiating now. There's so many creative, crazy deals. People do it with us. I don't want to, hurt myself, but people do it with us. And just say, well, if they're going to do that with me, I should be doing that with Google Cloud, or whoever it is that I'm using, Salesforce, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And, this vendor will never negotiate. They'll never do. And then they do. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. What do you think on the community building front? This is something I've been thinking about for a while. It does seem like big events are becoming less important, and the one-on-one connections are becoming more and more important. How do you help me make kind of one-on-one or small group connections? Are you feeling any of that?
It's just hard, right? People, it's I gotta get up. I gotta go do this. I gotta get in my car.
I don't like
to
events.
spend.
I don't know what you're like. I actually don't even like events.
You don't.
I wouldn't go to Silicon Slopes Summit if I didn't run it. I always say that. Nobody believes me, but I wouldn't.
I believe you.
I don't go to any other events but mine.
Yeah.
So read from that what you will.
Yeah.
I think they've been hugely beneficial to me in building my career. My Startup Grind is the most amazing networking event, and I'm sure Silicon Slopes is for you all, being in the back
Yeah.
and these just amazing people coming through. So marketing wise,
don't you think like what communities are wanting more is that experience, the experience that we get backstage with these leaders? They kind of like, how do I do that? How can you create that? Because that's why we're here. We want to but then you've got it walled off and like security guards and stuff, right?
And you have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
of course. Like, how could you not?
Yeah. I mean, I just think, I think you're right. The big events are smaller. At the same time, like, the new NHL hockey team gets 20,000, pre-orders on the, first couple of days, first day. You've got Jazz selling out. You've got, there's like the craving for experiences, and like, it's just healthy to be in person with other human beings.
Absolutely.
And so like, in some ways I'm like, yeah, like we're kind of fighting against a current, but it's like, it's the right thing to do. Like people need to get out of their homes. They need to get out from behind Zoom, and they need to talk to real human beings. They need to get away from their phones. We all need this. I need it. I'm speaking for myself. Like it's unhealthy for me to be in front of my phone all day. And I work from home. My whole team's remote. It's has all these negative effects. And so at least with events, like you're getting out with people and your like your mental health. I mean, there's all the loneliness, like that's how I think we combat loneliness. And maybe it's like, you're just doing it in your garden here in Utah. And like, you're bringing people, you're helping end loneliness here in Utah by helping people feel belonging. And that's enough.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it in my little space. And maybe if there's enough people to do it, maybe it doesn't have to be Google, we work with Google or Salesforce. They do like 500 to 1,000 of these events a month in every country.
That's incredible.
It's incredible. And it's like, that's huge scale. So it's like, man, if enough of those come together, like maybe people can start talking again.
I will say, when this guy drags me to events, I usually enjoy it by the end.
Absolutely.
But I never want to go.
I know.
But when I'm there, I'm like, I'm glad I came.
It is everything you just, because we've kind of contradicted ourselves a little bit in this merry-go-round, but it's everything you just said with like mental health. And there are a lot of events where you're like, no. And then you go and it is enjoyable, right? You might not be talking to billionaires and boys with toys, but you're talking to the normal folks. And that is wildly refreshing because we're all pretty normal. And I usually leave with a smile on my face and like really good interactions.
Yeah.
Not deals closed or sponsorships, but fun, good interactions, and overall like happy for several hours after.
This is one of the things that frustrated me with events before Startup Grind is I went to some events and I'd done well at EA, and I thought I had something to give. And then I would start talking to somebody and they'd be like, well, what's your startup? I'd be like, well, I'm working on it. And then they'd be like, okay, cool. And they just immediately turn away.
Yeah.
And I think this is something I've learned from some of the great Silicon Valley people. Like they are always opening their door to new people and new things. Even like the Vinod Khoslas of the world. Like I first cold emailed him and he responded at 2 a.m. Like, who am I? And like it doesn't mean they're going to spend an hour with you. It doesn't mean they let you pick their brain.
Yeah.
I hate that phrase.
Yeah, I do too.
It's like the zombies, like, I just need to pick your brain. It's like, please don't do that. I only have one brain. But so like you open these people are opening the door, and I just think you have to believe that anyone you talk to, you can get value from.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel that with the person at the cash register. Like I have something to learn from literally everyone. And so in these networking environments, there's so much pitching. And especially in startups, like it's all about me all the time. And you're just so focused on yourself, and you have to like, until you get used to it, you have to retrain your brain to like, and this is what you all are great at, like, how do I help first? And I've gotten so many emails from you, Clint, over the years. It's just like, how can I help? Like, what can I do? And it's like, just you saying that, like, it just changes the temperature, you know, in the room, and that I have, and it just changes my mindset. And if you, that's where a lot of times, even if I want to get through a conversation fast, and I mean it genuinely, like I often say, like, how can I help? I just say that first. I may not be able to, but like, what do you need? Like, how can I help? And then even if you're early in your career, if you do that a lot, you'll find after like 6 months, you'll become somebody that people know, because nobody does it.
Yeah, nobody does it. Nobody does it. It's so crazy when you get in a meeting and like I'm like, do you understand how I'm experiencing you right now? Where like you're like pitching me this thing, like I just met you, and like you want me to like partner with you. Like it's like I'm all, hey, hang on a second. What do you do?
Take a breath.
Yeah, what do you do? I don't get it. I want to ask you about our good friend Ryan here in a second, but I want to stay on the community topic first, just a moment longer. What do you think? Like part of what we've done is build media companies too, right? And he mentioned TechCrunch earlier, and remember how TechCrunch Disrupt was like this really big,
It's amazing,
interesting, cool thing,
immortalized in the Silicon Valley.
Yeah, for sure.
TV show.
Yeah. What do you think the future of media is now? How do you think about that? Because you really can probably do that aspect.
Yeah.
95% AI.
Yeah. So, I do think about this a lot. I mean, we started a podcast in 2014. I didn't stick with it, unfortunately. But, you know, I mean, how are you consuming media? Like, it's podcast. I'll tell, like, I'm doing it the same way everybody else is, but it's not the way we used to do it even 5 years ago. And we have 20,000 videos from all the best founders and entrepreneurs, and you guys have thousands of videos probably too. And like, what do you do? Like? There's so much there. Like, you don't need to meet Ryan Smith. You don't need to talk to him. You need to just like probably talk to his AI.
Yeah,
that will probably be much more helpful to you than talking to him directly. And he's coached me and coached you, and he's an amazing person to learn from. But like when I watch his videos, like I can hear. I now know I've seen so many of them, and like you can hear how he thinks and talks in everything that he does. And sometimes I think like, okay, like how would Ryan play the situation out? And like, so I think like the future of that, of like bringing the knowledge of these people that have done amazing things and giving anyone access to it. There's something with that, with AI. With all the content that we have.
It immortalizes them.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like even like when they pass, you still have this AI.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
And now we can interact with like AIs of like Einstein or whatever. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like the Superman talking to his dad.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild. But I want to ask you about Ryan, because you've known him even longer than I have. How have you experienced his rise and journey over the years? Well,
I met him at just down the street from where we are now in Provo, and we all played Halo together a lot, circa 2004. And I got to just share the story, but somebody had said amongst these people, like I was sort of interested in startups. I was working at a startup, and somebody said, Ryan started a startup. I'm like, cool. Cause I like didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I was trying to find the right idea. Anyways, so I asked him, we're sitting there playing, and I'm like, hey, what's your startup? I heard you do startups. It's called Qualtrics. Oh, cool. Like, what is it? He's like, well, we help like university professors do surveys. I'm like, cool. And like not a single follow-up question. I was like, I probably could have been the co-founder of Qualtrics if I'd just been a little more thoughtful, a little more open. But there's so many things about him that I wish I had in terms of qualities. But the things that have been the most impactful to me is just being inclusive of me in so many different places and ways that he didn't need to, and no one will ever know. And I'm going to say some of them so you'll know some of them. like he would take me to the Excel like CEO event, and that he got invited to, and it was right down the street from my house. He'd be like, "Hey, just come," and I would get to sit there with all the funded founders and like learn. Or he'd be like, "Hey, come up to Stanford and like sit in these case studies with us," or he'd tell me about a call that he had or a deal he was working on and help me learn from it. And there's no reciprocity. There was nothing. It was just to help me. And now he's kind of doing that at this huge mega scale.
Yeah.
And I'm repping the Utah Jazz. Like I'm a huge Ryan and Ashley Smith fan. Ryan Sweeney, Mike Mon, all those people that are building that. But it's not. It really the way he talks about Utah and about the Jazz. That's how he's talked about all the things he works on, and you want to be a part of it. And he got me wearing BYU gear again.
Yeah.
He just has this like magnetic force and also like vision of what he wants to do. But he really wants to bring everyone with him, and that it's super genuine.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. What do you think about his drive, though? His drive is absurd. He's like, how long have you been awake? And he's like got monsters. He's just like he just goes meeting it. Like, I don't know anybody who works harder than him, actually.
Yeah.
And he's up at early in the morning and he's up super late. I don't get it.
And what else he could be doing anything.
That's
right?
What's crazy is he even said it actually. He may have said it in a press conference, or I don't know where he said it. When he bought the NHL team, he was like, I was planning on spending the summer at the Olympics. And now I got to find real estate and figure out a brand. And, I'm like, you could. And like, he would have the most incredible experience at Olympics. And obviously he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And the fact that he chooses this, owning an NHL team is an incredible honor, of course. But man, he could be doing a lot of stuff, and building the state is his main priority.
And most people do. Most people that have an incredibly successful exit like that, you almost never see them again.
Yeah.
They just disappear. I could just, Jan Koum from WhatsApp,
Larry Page, I don't know where.
Larry Page, Sergey Brin. They windsurf in Fiji, So like, there's so many examples of it. And like for him and Ashley to no, we're going to double down. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep getting better. We have this growth mindset that, we're just never going to stop learning and growing. And he does so many things. He does so many things that really just benefit the state and benefit the cause. And you can spin it however you want, and people on Twitter do, or in other places. And it's just like, you have no idea. Doesn't have to do any of this, and he could maximize profit. And, they could I think they're trying to build a championship team. And there's a lot of pain with doing that. And there's a lot of sort of short-term difficulty to do that versus having a good team, a mediocre team. Like, they could do that overnight if they wanted to. And instead they've said, we're gonna try to eventually get a championship here to Utah. And to do that, we've got to do some really hard things. And they take a lot of shots, along the way.
Yeah, I think people saw the power of Ryan when he first brought Dwayne Wade in. Like, Dwayne Wade is a part owner of the Utah Jazz and not a part owner of the Miami. He is wild. That's crazy. And getting Danny Ainge here, right, which is somebody he's known for a long time, but getting probably the best GM over the past 20 years with the Celtics to come to Utah is unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
Yeah, he's surrounded by the very, very best people.
Yeah.
What's been his impact on you?
I don't know that Silicon Slopes exists without Ryan, honestly, because, you probably know the history of this. I was running Beehive Startups, which is kind of like a parallel competitor to Silicon Slopes. Silicon Slopes was inside of Domo and Josh. And at some point, me and Josh got together and said, hey, we should probably put these two things together. right? But in order to do that, we've also got to go, because we'd started this little thing called Start Foundation.
Yeah.
Like, which is kind of funny. Where Sconnard was on it, Ryan was on it, Todd was on it, like all these different people.
Yeah.
And, Ryan talking to Josh and getting everybody else bought in on like, hey, let's create the nonprofit. Let's pull it out. None of us can own it, that type of thing. I mean, all of that was like his vision, and logos and egos at the door is his phrase. Like, I don't know that it exists with that. It might, but because Josh played maybe even a bigger role in like making sure that happened, right? Like Josh's ability to be like, I'm going to give this something that I've put so much into, and this brand equity that I have in it. Like Josh deserves the bulk of the credit likely, but I don't know that it exists in the way that it does currently, if not for Ryan.
Yeah.
He's really good at like, all right, guys, and we'd meet at his house. Like we'd meet at like his office over there. Like, he was very just like open, and like all of a sudden it was like 4 a.m. in his basement. We're like, what is going on? This is so wild. He's like, I got a meeting at 8 a.m. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't get his energy blows my mind. That could be the craziest thing about him. Like his energy blows my mind.
I think his ability to, his communication ability to me is just unmatched. There's one of my favorite YouTube videos, and I watch it from time to time, is when him and Bill McDermott, who was the CEO of SAP after Qualtrics bought them, go watch those two announce it on CNBC or whatever it is. And when you see him do these press conferences, when you see him do Pat McAfee, when you see him go to these different places and really hard spaces to talk, and he knows where he wants to go. He knows how to communicate it super thoughtfully, and he knows how to get people excited about coming with him. And he's done that in every single project he's ever done.
Yeah. Well, dude, I could talk to you for hours, obviously. I think we're probably well over time here. Everybody check out Bevy.com. Seriously. The very best community product on the market. Go check out, and led by the greatest community leader that I know. And I mean that sincerely. Like when I was blown away when you hit 10.
Means a lot to hear you say that.
When you hit 10, I was like, holy crap. He did 10 of those. Now what are you at, 11, 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That blows my mind.
Well, you all's the same, that we're all still here, still going.
That's wild. That's wild, too. The longevity is cool.
Yeah.
It's like Kanye used to say, the longer your longevity, the more confidence you build. Can we quote Kanye now?
I think we can. We just did.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you.
Hey, we will be here tomorrow with
Nikki Eberhardt, who's a professor of business at Minerva University.
Okay, we're looking forward to Nikki. See everybody tomorrow.